Okay. Welcome to the April the 5th Torchside chat. Today we are excited, or this evening we're excited to have Dr. Eleanor Moody-Shepherd and Matt Bowers with us for the evening. The conversation today is going to be about refilling your cup when in trauma. The week that we are about to have and the week that we just finished can clearly count as group trauma for our country, for our world. And we just thought that maybe tonight might be a good time to, instead of focusing on that aspect of it, instead focusing on who we are and how we can together navigate this moment. So as we have said throughout this, we try to start with a little bit of silliness. And as you can tell, we've gotten a little bit better at this. I will teach you in a room. I will teach you on Zoom. I will teach you in your house. I will teach you with a mouse. I will teach you here and there, and I will teach you because I can. So just do your very best and do not worry about the rest. I thought that was kind of nice.
Wow. That's nice.
We normally start with a breathing exercise. So if you would, it's challenge by choice. I invite you to shut your eyes, but other than that, at least breathe with us. If you would breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, and breathe out. Breathe in the fact that we still can. Breathe out all of the things that make it hard for you today. Breathe in the fact that you're in community and people care about you. Breathe out the isolation that feels sometimes like that's not true anymore. Breathe in that you're in the company of people who care for you. Breathe out anything other than knowledge that that's the case. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, and breathe out. So, welcome back. I'm excited tonight to have as my good company, as I said, Dr. Moody-Shepherd and Matthew Bowers. Let me tell you a little bit about each of our guests for the evening. Dr. Moody-Shepherd is a professor emeriti from the New York Theological Seminary. She's the past provost and dean of students of that seminary, and currently is living in the Bronx. So as you can imagine, an 80-something, how's that to be polite, woman who is living in the midst of the ground zero for this virus would have plenty of reasons to not find her joy or her positive vibe. But we're here with Dr. Moody-Shepherd tonight because I suspect you'll find that she's chock full of joy. She's also been a campus minister at NYU and Cooper Union and some other campuses up in the New York City area. So she knows what it means to serve college students. Matt Bowers is also a campus crusade minister and has been for 3 years. He has just recently taken another full-time position at the Cornerstone Church of Knoxville as a church administrator. And Matt is a leadership studies class of 2017 graduate. So we're very excited to have Matt with us today. And I had forgotten when I extended the invitation, but Matt and Dr. Moody-Shepherd actually spent time together when she was on our campus 5 years ago as we launched the minor. And Matt was a young leader at the time. So it is with great pleasure that I invite our good company today. I thought maybe we would start with, Matt, why don't we start with you? And here's the question that I would ask you. I think he's a little surprised by that. But would you just share a bit about what the last 3 weeks have been like for you? With you in a separate space than the rest of the world. And then Dr. Moody, I'll come to you.
Sure. So yeah, I currently am working as a campus ministry worker. It's not crew. It's Volunteers for Christ. This is a different campus ministry.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think this is kind of funny, almost looking back on a month ago, what my life looked like and the change, I guess, that's happened in the past few weeks. Our campus ministry, our spring break trip got canceled. We had plans. We've now transitioned to being fully online, just like everything else, I guess, at UT. But yeah, I think it's kind of just I think everybody's just kind of living day by day right now and seeing how changes are happening. I recently bought a house, so I've been doing a lot of stuff around the house, trying to stay here as much as I can. But this is definitely a time of change. I think personally, it's just been kind of a roller coaster of different emotions, and just kind of seeing how, I think just looking towards the future, trying to see what's going on. Best way, I think, as a campus ministry worker, my primary role, I guess, is just care for students, and that's obviously shifted and kind of changed. So I think, like, even having this tonight, I think, is a great example of how times are changing, but I think there's still just something human, I think, about trying to have human interaction, caring about each other. So I am very humbled, I think, to be here. It's an honor, I think, to even Dr. Shepherd, I think it's pretty amazing to be just in her company. So thanks for having me.
Dr. Moody-Shepherd, what's your last few weeks been like? Thank you,
Well,
ma'am.
my last 2 weeks has not been terribly disruptive because I live a life that is sort of in place, like sheltered in place. The only thing that I do find that that is most troubling to me is to hear the ambulances, because it's 3 of the major hospitals that in the Bronx are not more than a mile or 2 from me. So for the last at least a week, in the evening particularly, I have been hearing the sounds of ambulances. So that has been invaded me, my space, to let me know and feel in my own spirit the trauma that has taken over the city and the country and the world, of course. And also, I've had 2 of my daughters. I have a lot of children that they are not biological children. They are children that I nurture. And 2 of them were stricken with the coronavirus. So I have been praying and talking to them and encouraging them to seek the inner power within them to fight this coronavirus. And in addition to that, life goes on with me in many ways, because I am on the board of a house that a house that is historic in New York City for formerly incarcerated women. And I'm the chairman of that board. And what we have started to do is do at least 1 hour conference calls each week. So I have been quite busy in my life. I have not had time to feel the stress in my life of being separated from others and feeling a sense of accomplishment. And I think that has helped me to be able to continue to live a viable life. So that's basically what I have been doing.
both of you are in positions that people look to you when it's hard, in moments when it's difficult. Um, what do you do to keep yourself feeling like you can continue to give when somebody needs it from you? Dr. Moody-Shepherd, if you're up, you can answer that first, I imagine.
Yes. Well, one of the things that I have, I was talking to my daughter, I am very resilient. And I've lived through so many of these traumatic periods in my life because I am a child of World War II. Mm. And so in being a Black woman, I have experienced every one of the traumas and every one of the events that have been part of the life of this country. So I have developed a spiritual life that is so powerful and is palpable in my life that protects me from a lot of this, I should say the fear and sadness, because I have a sense of connection with the divine that keeps me from feeling despair in that way. And also I have learned ways to satisfy satisfy my need to feel purposeful. And so that helps me to sustain my joy. And I am a person that feels joy and I seek ways to be joyful every day. And I find joy in speaking with my children, both of my children, and just people that I care for. Just the conversation that you and I, Dr. Boyd, had really enriched my life in ways that sustains me during the times when I could, if I was prone to do that, I could feel the challenge of the problem that we're having, but I don't have that. And so that's what I do. I strategize in many ways so I don't fall into the abyss of despair.
Dr. Boyd, I don't think I can hear you.
I can't hear you either.
You can't, because I'm on mute, which is, I was so proud of myself, and there it goes. You mentioned Dr. Moody-Shepherd when we were talking about your daughter having given you a lot of guff because you'd let somebody in the house to deal with a problem that was happening that needed a little bit of attention with somebody to fix things, and that you're careful when you go to the garbage to take the pizza to the garbage, and that you're careful with everything you touch. So you're being very careful about all of these things, which could tend to make somebody feel very overwhelmed at times. But you what was the phrase you used? It wasn't vibe, or was it? What was the phrase that you were using that that was the kind of the touchstone for you to keep positive? I'm not sure.
Oh, my vibration? Mm-hmm. Keep my vibration side?
You want to tell them about your vibrations?
Oh, well, they wanted the way to keep. I have a sense of my idea is that within my life, I'm connected to the sources that have the kind of power that will help me to get through these kind of traumatic periods. And so in order to keep that my vibrations, which is a sense of well-being and happiness and strength, I must feed that and elevate myself in that way. And the way I do that is by finding finding activities and people and to define it. And I read do things that will keep me my vibration elevated, and that is to enhance my well-being. And so when I'm enhancing my well-being, I am elevating my vibrations in my body and in my spirit.
So doing small things that make you feel more satisfied, that bring you joy,
Absolutely.
that feed you.
Absolutely.
And it's not hedonism, it's self-care.
It's self-care.
Matt, how about you?
I think kind of echoing what Dr. Shepherd said, a little bit different. I would say that this is one of the first global crises I've ever really experienced on an individual level. I was like 6 years old when 9/11 happened. You know, I was 10 when Hurricane Katrina happened. So I think this is the first big, group trauma, I think, example that I've experienced firsthand. But then I think a similarity that I do have with Dr. Shepherd has been, I think, the kind of the resiliency of, I think, I think my worldview, I think, is pretty resilient in terms of, kind of Dr. Shepherd was saying, like spirituality. You know, I think historically Christianity has done well in times of crises because I think it does have a words like you were saying, like joy, purpose, meaning, I guess, to life that I think is kind of a cornerstone or a foundation of life that doesn't change in circumstance. So, I think that's like a unique thing that I've been talking to some of my friends, some students that I've been interacting with. Is kind of like when times shift and difficulty does come, I think it really reveals a lot about what you care about, what you're living for, what, even as a leader, like what goal am I trying to achieve in my life? And I think it reveals to a lot of people, either my passion, my purpose, my meaning, my joy withstands this trauma, or, it starts to kind of falter. And I think that's a moment where I think we all have to kind of come together, and I think having dialogue, having this communication, working those out. So I think like the past few weeks for me has been a lot of like, I think revealing to myself, like, I don't like change. I think this is hard for me. I think it's hard for a lot of people, so it has kind of, I think, been really telling about, functionally in my day-to-day life, what am I really like trying to seek happiness in? Is it comfort? Is it safety? Is it health? Those things can change day by day, and I think that's like just a reality of life. And I think it's been kind of pushing me forward, thinking, all these historic heroes I look up to endured hardship well, because I think their purpose and meaning and joy, kind of the essence of their life, I think was in something that didn't fall away once hardship happened, but it really motivated them to move forward in hardship. And it's like, I want to be like that. I think like right now, I don't know if I'm pretty overwhelmed sometimes, I think, and that's just like a normal thing of life, but I think it's something I kind of want to push forward and try to get to that point. It's like, I could get the coronavirus. Like, how would that affect my life? You know, how would that change my perspective? And I think I've just been thinking a lot about things like that, just having conversations with people. I think it's been really fruitful. I think I've seen a lot of, in my own life, you know, what do I really value? And, you know, if the coronavirus sweeps through and takes that away, you know, what am I kind of left with? And how do I regroup? How do I keep moving forward? So I think I've been thinking a lot about things like that, and just kind of day by day, you know, trying to persevere, you know.
Well, I appreciate your honesty and vulnerability. That was the discussion we had last week, actually, was the power that comes from being authentically vulnerable in the moment as a leader. And the reality is that in the role you're in, people will look to both of you. They look to both of you for wisdom, for comfort, for solace. But from my end of this, the thing that was interesting to me about what both of you talked about was this notion of purpose. So while clearly you each come from a spiritual place and you have a foothold on something that gives you more confidence when the winds and the sands are shifting, even so, everybody in the program that we have had here has been pushed to understand what their vavavoom is, their values, vision, and mission.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, you know what a vavavoom is. It's a shared experience across our program, but the point of that is purpose, and for you to really push, because now's the moment you need to know what those are, and to be able to rely on that, because you can't plan what tomorrow brings, but you can plan how you're going to respond to tomorrow, and that helps you know how to choose what matters. And it gives you, I think, even if you're questioning some of that, it gives you the ability to review it more quickly than others might, if that makes sense. You've at least evaluated things along the way. What do you think? What do you think when working with people who are at the end of their joy, so to speak, or they don't feel that their cup is there? What advice do you have for finding that purpose and helping them? Because I think our students and the people that are on this call will be helping others. So how do you help the helper? Not just how do you find your joy, but how can you help the helper assist somebody else in finding a foothold in this moment?
Well, one of the things, may I respond to that in a
please.
way that I have been talking to people about, is that one of the things we have to help people to be more introspective and be more interior, and look more into themselves, and help them to do that. Because a lot of times looking inside, it's a very scary place, and a lot of people feel that they don't have any gifts, they don't have any place to anything to give. And one of the things that I found to be very helpful in my working with people is to help people discover themselves, because they can't be helped out with the exterior, because that is what so often that they have found to be the place where they are wounded outside of themselves. And so they don't see themselves having the ability to be able to navigate the places. And so that's why they feel that they have depleted and not be receiving what they need to fill their own cup. So my help what I have been very helpful in helping people to do is to learn and appreciate themselves. And so it takes a sense of, and they have to learn how to be generous, that kind of generosity and that kind of love of self, that kind of ability to forgive themselves, and the ability to see themselves through lens of love instead of through the lens that perhaps that they have looking through that have wounded them. So you help them to shift the narrative and their own narrative so that they can find their own internal strength. And that takes a lot of patience and love, and for you to be discerning enough to be able to see that person and help them, and not expect them to take leaps, but help them to develop and do it and sustain in steps. And that's what I have done it, and it has been, because a lot of times when they look within themselves, they can find what will help them heal. And not a lot of times, my experience has been that that's where they find the healing place. But we have to help them find center. I have been, that's the technique that I use.
You got thoughts?
Yeah, I think, I guess for all the students, like me and students kind of clumped into a category. I think this is the first big thing that's kind of broken the whole world all at once together, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think that's important to remember. You know, we are kind of all broken together in the same way right now. It's kind of broken all types of social divides. And I think what has been one of the most encouraging things the past few weeks has been seeing the goodness of humanity revealed in the midst of a really challenging trial. And just seeing how people do respond well together. So I think, you know, as a leader, this is a great opportunity for y'all to really think, you know, what is my vision in life? And the next few weeks you're at home, so you have a lot of time to think about that, you know. So you can really think like, you know, this is what makes me want to live my life. And then you see a world around you in desperate need for, you know, positivity, you know, desperate need for help. And I think compassion, and I think just the good side of what makes people human. And you can really think, you know, okay, so I want to create, you know, I don't know. For me, I was a sophomore when I started the minor, and I was, you know, Christian. I was taking a lot of classes talking about the effect of religion on sociology, you know, the effect of religion on society. And, you know, I was like, I really want to help push this into a more positive narrative. And, you know, I think as I was a student, I learned a lot about myself, learned a lot about different things. They didn't really have an opportunity to really like apply those things outside of like the classroom. And I think now we kind of are in an opportunity where it's like, you know, I can really help people by doing things that are aligned with my passion and my vision for life in very small ways that can really affect people positively. So I think, you know, as a leader, like y'all are all students and you're in Zoom classes all day, but you still have interactions with people. So I think it's a great opportunity for y'all to really think like, this is what I care about. You know, this is what I want to, my life to be remembered by, however you want to say it, you know, and you can really think like, okay, how can this be applied and be practiced in my day-to-day life in the midst of a crisis, in the midst of hardship. And I think it's going to really, I think be beneficial to you and for other people. You know, I think there's something that feels good about like, I'm going to help people by doing something I care about. And I think even though it's hard now because of so many different reasons, you know, I think that there are like a lot of opportunity and potential for y'all to really help people and I think lead well, even though circumstances are hard and life is challenging and whatnot. Yeah.
Y'all, it's at that time. I'm going to just finish. If there is there any last word or words that each of you would like to share with the group, and
Yes,
then. Mhm.
Yes, there are last words that I want to, and Matt has reminded me that this is the first time on the rodeo that he's had, and so I have an opportunity to evaluate the World War II, the Korean War, the Civil Rights Movement, the Vietnam War, the women's movement, all of those movements. And then, of course, all of the kind of political and stuff that goes on. And I have been in a position to be, because I am an activist, I have been in a position to be active in all of those. And so I have, and being the person that I am, an observant, a person that do critique society. And so I have been able to live and through those challenges. Not only have I survived them, I've thrived through them. So that it has to me, has to be not a society change. It has to be an individual. And that's why my real hope and purpose for what I do and how I do it is to help the individual person face themselves and be able to develop their own way of understanding themselves in relation to the world and other people. So that is why living through this trauma, and you know, I didn't count the different periods of crisis that I've lived through, the national crisis that I've lived through, and I'm convinced that the change come from person to person individually, and hopefully that this particular crisis will in some way enter into the human spirit in a way that will affect some changes that will, for all of us, for the good of humanity.
Yeah, I would just add, you know, looking at your life, Dr. Shepherd, I think, you know, it's amazing. And I think for all of us listening to that, you know, that's a big deal, that the fact that there are so many different hard crises on a national level that you can lose count, you know, and then you have embraced those challenges and pushed forward. That's brave. And, you know, I think that inspires me. You know, I want to embrace this challenge optimistically and with purpose. And I would just say, you know, if you kind of feel like I do, where it's like, you know, this is the first big, hard global national challenge I've really felt personally, you know, I think all of Dr. Shepherd's life has prepared her for each individual challenge in a unique way. So, you know, I think everything has a purpose. You know, all of the small details of life I do think matter. And I think for all of us, you know, we have been equipped in different ways to be able to step into this challenge and to lead and to I think make lasting positive change, even though that probably looks different in all of our lives. But I just think that kind of drive that you have, Dr. Shepherd, to I'm not going to shrink back from hardship, but I'm going to push forward into this hardship because I think it matters. I think that's if we could all have that perspective, I think if we could all have that passion, I think, we would all be, I think, very effective and very helpful in different ways. So I would just kind of add that, I think I want to have that perspective of this crisis is going to come and go, but there's always going to be something else. I'm never going to have happy, perfect life. There's always going to be something hard about my life. So I want to equip myself and even reflect on my own life up to this point now, so that this hardship, I feel more rooted and more stable and more prepared to, I guess, meet that challenge. And I think that does come from just learning. We're still young. And I think we're still trying to figure out what does this look like in life. And so maybe just even having a perspective of I want to think future minded, but then also think retrospectively at my own life and try to think through how am I uniquely kind of made and prepared for this crisis? What are ways that because of who I am, I can really uniquely help in a way that Dr. Boyd might not be able to, or the way Matt might not be able to. So I think that's just I think a perspective, I try to think through. I don't know if that even makes sense to y'all, but I think, I think it's a good category to have, how has my life played out up to this point? Okay, I can think back on that, think positives and negatives. Because of those things, I'm better equipped in specific ways, not maybe than anybody, but in specific ways, I feel very equipped to be able to do certain things for positive change in the current crisis that I'm in. And that's just a good way that's the way I try to think.
Well, and I think that's the point of this program that I lead, is to help our students have that conversation with themselves, to help them individually identify how each thing that they do is the change that we are seeking, and helping them figure out how to be that, and figure out what about their own personal abilities, skills, and just way of being make them able to make this contribution that's needed in this moment. I'm gonna give Dr. Moody-Shepherd the last word until I go to mine. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
The one thing that I wanted to say is that there is a fountain of generosity in each one of us. And there's also a reserve of love, and that we have, that we can tap into. And if we can tap into the sense of generosity, then we can and the sense and our reservoir of love. And I believe that's innate in us, that has been so often undeveloped in a corporate sense. And so that as we face the challenges, that we look for those things within us that have not been developed, that have not been tapped into, to help to sustain us in during these traumatic times, because we have what we need, but it's just it is how can we, and how can the people around us and how can we unite those to be able to function in it and be available for us to draw on and use purposefully for the good of humanity.
That's a very powerful charge, and hopefully one that we remember not just for the coming week or weeks, but from here forward. We are changed by this. Don't think we aren't. Understand that I understand that especially this generation have been accused of being snowflakes and have had their ability to sustain in this moment questioned. I would argue that they've been forged in the fires of gun violence in the school, the aftermath of 9/11. They are not snowflakes, but they have not had their moment that did test them, and this is it.
Has not been ignited.
It's now.
Yes.
And the reality is that right now, I know, as I said to the graduates on Wednesday, all you've been asked to do is to sit on your couches and to attend Zoom classes and to get stuff finished. But I would suggest that you realize that that's just an opportunity to be ready. That's really what I would give to you. This is my Torchside contribution chat. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I said, of all things, the loss of graduation was a small thing, but a small thing I could do something about. And I guess that's what I would suggest. You recognize that you don't have to do a big thing right now. You need to think about the small things and the small things that you can do something about, because with the one that you're doing it with, or the few, it will be a big thing for them. It's what is needed in the moment. And the more of those that you do, the more people are sustained and fulfilled, and they have those positive vibrations fed. And we together make it to the next place. You don't need to be doing everything. And right now, you may be needing just to find ways to sustain those vibrations in yourself and in those people you love. That said, be ready. Because when it comes your way, you'll recognize it, and don't question whether you can do it, because to be quite frank, if you see it, you're probably the one that's supposed to be doing it. Because there ain't nobody else right now that can. Do what you can when you need to do it. So I'll leave you with what I would suggest is the last word until next week. Just know that when that's the case, you're not alone. You are not alone. So I'm going to let Elvis take us home.
Man's shoes, I saw things through his eyes, or stood and watched with helpless hands while the heart inside you dies. So help your brother along the way, no matter where he starts. But the same God that made you made him too. When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high, and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of a storm is a golden sky, and the sweet silver song of love. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain. Oh, your dreams will be tossed and blown. Walk on with a hope in your heart, and you never walk alone. You never walk alone.
This week, no matter how hard it gets, you're not alone. Until next.